Morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending with the good news. From Niger State, as 100 students of St. Mary's Catholic School who regained their freedom from abductors on Sunday are heading home. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has commended security agencies for securing their freedom. The students were received by Governor Umar Bago at the government house in Mina on Monday after they had spent 2 weeks in captivity. President Tinubu expressed joy over their safe return, but charged security agencies to ensure the swift release of the remaining 153 students and 12 teachers still in captivity. Well, here is the movement. The students were received at the government house in Mina.
We are just excited and we're happy that we've received 100 of these children, as you saw just a minute ago, and want to thank the President, security agencies, and every Nigerian that have been part of this recovery. And we are hopeful by the grace of God we'll get the remaining very, very soon.
We're glad to see these children have been freed. President Tinubu has also assured parents that both the federal and Niger state governments are working closely to reunite all abducted students with their families and has charged the security forces to prevent future kidnappings and ensure schools are no longer soft targets for terrorists. Well, according to reports, the rescue followed intensified military operations, aerial surveillance across Niger, Kwara and Kebbi states, and deployment of community hunters in the forest. Yet, no arrests were made. Let's take a reaction on X. This person wrote, "How do these kids return without corresponding arrests or neutralization of the terrorists? How do you convince them to release the children without incidents? Your negotiating team must have a great power of conviction. Or are there some under-the-table transactions that the citizenry are privy to? I know that your government wouldn't pay ransom to terrorists. That would be gross irresponsibility. Of course, that's beneath you. But we, the ordinary citizens, are just curious as to how you're able to pull these negotiations through time and time again without incidents." We know that, the Christian Association of Nigeria, in a statement on Monday, said it had not received, official notification regarding the release of the 100 abducted students. The chairman of CAN Niger State chapter, Bishop Bulos Yohana, noted that while it would be cherry news to learn of the abductees' freedom, no information about their current whereabouts has been delivered to the grieving communities, raising questions about coordination between security agencies and key stakeholders in the release process. Now, we've seen this video, and the Niger State government has said that they're going to return the pupils to their family, I believe, hopefully after some sort of rehabilitation. We're glad, we're happy that our 100 young children are back home. Kudos to the security forces that helped to secure their release or freedom. But the question is still out there. Where are the terrorists who abducted these children? Where did they find them? Where are the remaining children?
Good question, Oji. And yes, like I said this morning, on the hearts of parents, well-wishers, loved ones, or anybody with a conscience or a heart, what you're looking at when you see a release like this is, thank God the children are back.
Yes.
Even though not all of them, we're told this morning 315 abducted, students and teachers, 50 escaped, 100 now rescued, so it means that 165, still more than those who were taken, are still in captivity. So first of all, let me say thank God that they're back home. We are grateful to the security operatives and all those who were involved in their release. However, a bigger question would then be what we've been asking for, whether it be from Kebbi State or in Niger State, would be what kind of release is almost as if Nigeria is writing a new script on how rescue operations are conducted in such a way that rescue operations are conducted where there are no arrests. We don't have an opportunity to have that peace of mind that this will not occur again because the perpetrators or the people behind this have been apprehended. And it means that people will wait with bated breath as to where would be the next location based on what their agreements are. I also think there's a suspicion around this phased approach, or shall I say batch approach, to the release of these students. Why is it that only a few have been released at this time? Why were they not all released at the same time? I cannot imagine the anguish. 2 parents, by the way, have died whilst waiting for their children. And when you look at the faces of how young they are, you can understand the trauma that the parents and the children must have faced in the 2 weeks since they've been in captivity. I believe that whilst we celebrate on one hand the fact that these children are back home, which is what we have been calling for, and salute the efforts of all the security stakeholders who secured their release, the bigger question, in order for us to have that assurance that we won't see a reoccurrence or that we are proactive, is an apprehension of the terrorists who abducted them in the first place, a full going through of the justice system, facing persecution. If found guilty, let us see the penalties for that, because this also acts as a deterrent for those who might have an idea of going into this life of criminality and terrorism, not to do with that. If you dare venture into this, you will be caught, you'll be found out, and you will face the full wrath of the law. Unfortunately, that assurance is not there. Instead, it looks as if there's some form of negotiation. It's not just about payment of ransom. It's also the fact that it seems there's a similitude of negotiations happening, and this government has continued to maintain that they will not negotiate with terrorists. It means that somebody is lying.
All right, Rufai.
Ayo, you're spot on. You asked the question, Oji, where are the terrorists? Please ask the government that knows them so well, that they romance themselves, that they call them on the phone to release people, that they can even give you blow-by-blow accounts of what is going on with the people kidnapped. But Oji, in this conversation, what we are not looking at is that things are so bad now in Nigeria that to be a child in this country is a sad, sad commentary. Do you know that it is children that are kidnapping these children? Have you seen the picture of some of the terrorists that were killed, those that come on TikTok?
We've seen their
They are children too.
They're young boys.
So what we have in this conversation, we have not even talked about the child soldiers that have emerged in Nigeria. Nigeria has now become a den for child soldiers.
Yes. And you know, former President Olusegun Obasanjo had raised that in one of his interviews, where he talked about how Gumi cried when he saw these young boys in the forest and they are drugged out. They have access to guns, they have access to drugs, and they have no future. These terrorists in the forest.
It's a double whammy.
Yes.
We are saying they are kidnapping children, but it is the children, the future of this country, that are also kidnapping the children that they've misled, that they've destroyed their lives, that they have become terrorists today. In all of this, the government now said they've done a deal. They released people. What about the parents that died? So nothing will happen, right? The cycle will continue again. You will keep talking to them. They will kidnap again. You will release them. Just like we had the Kankara boys. It's not agreements.
Right.
Then we had the Dapchi. You will kidnap, they will release, and the government has not solved the problem.
All right.
Why is all of this happening? Because the government is not ready to end the pervasive level of insecurity. If the Nigerian state, like I said, is ready, then it will end. And that's why, like I said before, Oji, this talk about, don't say President Tinubu should resign. When all of this was happening under Jonathan, did President Tinubu call for his resignation? He did.
All right.
If you violate a constitutional requirement, should I not call for a resignation? I should. Section 14 of Section 2 talks about the security of lives and property being in the hands of the state. If the head of state violates that by not providing security for the people, what has he done? Has he not violated the Constitution? Is it not grounds for him to resign?
All right. Well, meanwhile, United States Congressman Riley Moore has described the rescue of the 100 students as a positive demonstration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's response to the country's security challenges. Riley Moore made the remark in a post on X following his meeting with National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu in Abuja. He thanked the NSA for a productive meeting with the U.S. congressional delegation to Nigeria and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, stating, I'll read Riley Moore's post in part. He wrote, I want to thank the Nigerian government and President Tinubu for rescuing the 100 innocent and precious Catholic school children. This is a positive demonstration of the government's increasing response to the security situation and shows commitment to the emergency declaration laid out by President Tinubu. The U.S.'s sense of urgency on our concerns was positively received. I feel that a cooperative security framework is within sight. The now established joint task force between Nigeria and the U.S. is a great example. It is clear that there is an openness and willingness on the part of the Nigerian government to work with the United States to tackle these critical issues. Now, that openness has to translate to concrete action. There is much work still to be done, but things are moving in the right direction. I look forward to the next steps with the Nigerian government and the continuing open dialogue. Peace be with you all. God bless the great people of Nigeria. Dr. Bati, I wanted to read out the tweet, just so that we can have context to what he was actually saying, praising the Tinubu administration, especially for the rescue efforts with the 100 school children that were released on Sunday. Now, Riley Moore also met with Benue State religious and traditional leaders to discuss ongoing violence in the Middle Belt region. The lawmaker posted a photo of his meeting with Bishop Wilfred Anaigbe, Bishop Isaac Dugu, and James Luriza, traditional ruler of the Tiv people. Moore described the meeting as an honor, stating that Christians in the region will no longer suffer in silence and that the United States has heard their cries. Over to you.
Okay, first, I do not subscribe to the idea of anybody saying President Tinubu should resign. That's not part of the conversation. President Tinubu did not start insurgency, banditry, or terrorism. He inherited it. And if what Congressman Riley Moore is saying is anything to go by, this is a man who has come on a fact-finding mission after all that back and forth between the United States and Nigeria, saying that he is convinced that the Nigerian government is committed to open dialogue and to cooperation, and that the Nigerian U.S. Joint Working Group, chaired by NSA Nuri Badu from our side, is working. And that he believes that with the kind of dialogue that he has had with the Nigerian authorities, if some of the agreements are followed, that the Tinubu administration will be able to address some of the concerns, not just about alleged Christian persecution, but also about the security of the people of Nigeria generally. So I think Congressman Moore, said, what should be enheartening for those who believe in the progress of Nigeria and for the administration that has been making every possible effort to address the concerns of the United States as articulated by President Trump on October 31. Now, Congressman Moore was one of the two persons that President Trump gave the directive to go and investigate. Now, the other person was the chairman of the Appropriations Committee in Congress. And this is in line with his work. Now, yesterday I said, well, this investigation is coming a posteriori, after the fact, that shouldn't they have done this investigation before jumping to certain conclusions about Nigeria? But better late than never. I think there is hope in the horizon.
So, yeah.
There is established understanding. There is, some development in the direction of the cooperation that the Nigerian government asked for.
All right.
Well, typical diplomatic approach. Congressman Moore, Ambassador Richard Mills and Ballard and other members of that delegation, they also met with civil society. They were in Benue, where they met with the governor, and they met with Bishop Anagbe, Bishop Dugu, and also the Tiv, so that it's not only government side that they are listening to. However, the caveat that I added is that, okay, this is a fact-finding mission. What matters is what President Trump decides at the end of the day. When President Trump sends diplomats either to Doha, whether it's Steve Witkoff or it is his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, or it is Scott Bessent, what we always hear is that where we have to report back to President Trump. He's the one who will decide. And I hope that they will brief President Trump appropriately and make everything open, the same kind of openness that Congressman Moore is commending from the Nigerian side. That they would, and then there will be some kind of understanding, and that the cooperation that Nigeria is asking for, will be at the fulcrum of that process of collaboration and understanding.
Well said. Let's now turn our